moves on right now. Keep my moves on low key. Keep the trees on OG. Keep the flow on higher level. Keep my reputation on honorable. I keep truth over falsehoods. I'm the type to keep grabber over backwards. I'm the type to keep touring out my own way. Celebrate my parents on my born day. I'm the type to keep a toolie in the sad spot. From a school where pioneers was our mascot. I'm the type to keep books full of rhymes written. Might spit a couple off the top if the vibe's different. I keep flows like a jet, I keep a lightsaber. And keep paper in my pocket like a true player. Now that's PIMP if you ain't peeped yet. $1 million is only getting your feet wet. I keep my mind on the trillion, that's 1,000 billion. Starting to feel like chump change is 100 million. I keep cushion the vein for the elevation. And keep Torah on the brain for the meditation. Black man, keep your mind on liberation. It's time we get our own land, the birth of a nation. I try to keep good vibes over dark vibes, but they ain't killing our lives, only black lives. That's why I keep good thoughts in my archives. Make sure Most High is always on the hard drive. Keep your self-respect, yo, control yourself. And keep yourself in check, don't ever play yourself. I keep my foot on the gas, I'm going hard on them. And keep a three-point shooter for when we ball on them. I keep cooking up fire to keep the streets hot. From a time when dudes really used to beatbox. I keep perfecting my craft to make a game changer. And keep one in the chamber ready for all danger. Yeah, I like to keep the peace, but we could go to war. Down to fight against the powers trying to get us all. They say black don't crack, so I'ma keep it poppin'. Cause we gon' be here forever, know that we never stoppin'. Now that's PIMP if you ain't peeped yet. $1 million is only getting your feet wet. I keep my mind on the trillion, that's 1,000 billion. Starting to feel like chump change is 100 million. Yeah, you know we keep it different. Yeah. Check.
Grand Rising. And my all, I ain't flying.
I'm just trying to keep my mind on right ground.
Giving everybody
my meditation's on right now. Keep my moves on low key. Keep the trees on OG. Keep the flow on higher level. Keep my reputation on honorable. I keep truth over falsehoods. I'm the type to keep grabber over backwards. I'm the type to keep touring out my own way. Celebrate my parents on my born day. I'm the type to keep a toolie in the sad spot. From a school where pioneers was our mascot. I'm the type to keep books full of rhymes written. Might spit a couple off the top if the vibe's different. I keep flows like a jet, I keep a lightsaber. And keep paper in my pocket like a true player. Now that's PIMP if you ain't peeped yet. $1 million is only getting your feet wet. I keep my mind on the trillion, that's 1,000 billion. Starting to feel like chump change is 100 million. I keep cushion the vein for the elevation. And keep Torah on the brain for the meditation. Black man, keep your mind on liberation. It's time we get our own land, the birth of a nation. I try to keep good vibes over dark vibes, but they ain't killing our lives, only black lives. That's why I keep good thoughts in my archives. Make sure Most High is always on the hard drive. Keep your self-respect, yo, control yourself. And keep yourself in check, don't ever play yourself. I keep my foot on the gas, I'm going hard on them. And keep a three-point shooter for when we ball on them. I keep cooking up fire to keep the streets hot. From a time when dudes really used to beatbox. I keep perfecting my craft to make a game changer. And keep one in the chamber ready for all danger. Yeah, I like to keep the peace, but we could go to war. Down to fight against the powers trying to get us all. They say black don't crack, so I'ma keep it poppin'. Cause we gon' be here forever, know that we never stoppin'. Now that's PIMP if you ain't peeped yet. $1 million is only getting your feet wet. I keep my mind on the trillion, that's 1,000 billion. Starting to feel like chump change is 100 million. I keep cushion the vein for the elevation. And keep Torah on the brain for the meditation. Black man, keep your mind on liberation. It's time we get our own land, the birth of a nation.
Come on. Aboriginal music to get this Aboriginal rising started. Let's go.
We the ones slaved and oppressed, who never really know what's coming next. We the ones never on top, always getting harassed by a cop. We the ones, the only people on earth without a true nationality.
Come on.
Yeah, we the ones, the only nation of people disconnected from their families. 40 days and 40 nights, 40 years and mad fights, 400 years being oppressed. We shed so many tears, there's none left. My way to lament is get bent.
Come on.
Sip a shot of some Henny and roll hemp. Play something that's fire and let me vent. The flows keep getting higher, they like rent.
Woo.
We truly come from kings and high priests. Now we're ruled by kings in high seats. We were bought and sold like a commodity. That's property. We the story so real like some consider it a fable.
Grand Rising no sellout.
No, it gotta be real.
Yep.
Come on.
We the ones kept in the dark.
What is this thug music?
We the ones mocked and abused. Call a bunch of names people never used. We the ones. Yeah, we took that.
Ooh, oh, what is that? What is that?
We the ones. But what goes round
I was messing around.
Good looking.
You can't
I
have
hear a
fun
sample.
without a gang. Life needs balance to maintain. You can't have
Bro,
friends
is this you?
without a phone these days. You can't trust nobody. You never know. As you walk around, just know some people will love you,
He's
some
on
will
his
hate you, but never keep your head down.
He's doing the bones right now. He can't.
It's high, you should walk with pride and stay
Grand
Yeah,
Rising
headphones
to
on.
everyone
first, never
in the
church.
chat.
I'm more spiritual. I take time crafting my verse. I'm more
Oh, we live right now.
hard work, feeding the
Yes,
dirt.
we are.
More physical, and after that I light up some purpose like a ritual.
You know.
We the ones walking around. It's deep, you gotta watch what you eat, so stay woke, get dope
I
while
bet you ain't had no sleep
down.
yet.
you see, you can hear it, right?
We the ones kept in the dark, who they lied to from the very start.
He came to
We
work
the
with his
ones.
backhoe
We the
and his
ones
shovel
locked in the
and his
fuse,
hard
call
hat.
a bunch of names people never used. We the ones. Yeah, we took that whooping and kept cooking. We the ones. But what goes round comes back round, so good looking.
It's all good.
Grand Rising, Grand Rising.
Grand
This guy.
Rising, sir.
Peace, no sellout. Peace,
Grand
TMH.
Rising. Grand Rising Bones.
Just playing some tunes for my brother, Aboriginal brother Hezi. You can find him on YouTube under HEZ3 Hezi. You can find him on SoundCloud under HEZ3 Hezi. Aboriginal artist and making Aboriginal music over the last 15 years. So if anybody liked the tracks you heard this morning, you can check him out at either one. SoundCloud, iTunes, Amazon Music. Under, again, it's HEZ3 Hezi.
Got it. Just posted it somewhat in the chat. Hopefully I spelled it right. His
Yep.
hat
Yeah, you
handle
got it
for
right.
YouTube
Mm-hmm.
and all that other jazz. Grand Rising, y'all. Grand Rising to the chat. I am Flying Squirrel. David Corey, Joe 47.
What it do?
TMH, you already here. Pamela Hall. Peace, everybody.
I
Peace.
am.
Grand Rising. Man, audio sounding crispy right now. What's up?
Just a little upgrade tweak. That's it. Little sanitizer.
I can hear the
sanitizer.
difference. We live, baby. We live.
Mm-hmm.
Grand Rising, everybody.
How was y'all night in your rising so far?
Man.
Who first? Who taking off first?
Well, mine is boring. I just got some good sleep. I feel like I got some great sleep this time around. So that's it. It was some good sleep last night. So
Where do I
Go
start?
ahead, TMH.
Where do I start? This walk to self-discovery and accepting what our ancestors have done. The more I learn, the less I like it. But the more I understand why we got to get it right. We'll talk about it later on.
All right. Okay. Grand Rising Michael Robinson. Catching that cab, calling Aboriginal bloodlines, all Aboriginal bloodlines, picking you up, dropping you off where you need to go. Peace Macadon 1. Cab is presented to you by Tonkiness Assembly, gathering other minds where the real work gets done. And it's 8:10 a.m. on the 4th, 25th day of 2019 of April. And so far this week, if you haven't caught up, we've been going through the Indian Wars on who was fighting with who, what tribes were siding with what nations, and it's been at the least very, very interesting. Original Tiller, peace, peace. Glad you made it. So far, with what we've been reading before we take off where we left off at, how y'all feeling so far? Besides the discuss, the acceptance.
Everything I thought I knew about being in India, everything I thought I knew about our role in it,
Mm-hmm.
very eye opening. Very eye opening. We can't turn a blind eye to how much responsibility we must take in the role of what was done. At the end of the day, we didn't have each other's back.
Mm-hmm.
So
I can concur with that one.
yeah, bunch of side deals going on, and just a just a you know bunch of mess. So yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah.
Anything you want to add to it, no sellout, before we move forward?
Yeah, I mean, just like what TMH has been saying, you got to own up to some of the things that, what I'm saying. It's not all the good stuff is not the only thing you need to be talking about especially once you discover what your tribes and nations have been doing in history. Because like I said, I don't know all my history, my family's history and everything. So yeah, I mean, pretty soon it's going to be on some Paul Mooney. Everybody want to be an Indian, but don't nobody want to be an Indian. So
Mm-hmm. Grand Rising Patrick Gabriel, Grand Rising LJ Free. Okay, so continuing where we left off, yesterday we stopped at the 7 Years' War, and today we'll be picking off, starting with the French and Indian War, which is also part of the 7 Years' War. Right now we're starting at 1754. Hold on, let me put this out here before I take off. And put it Y'all had the article with you, or you need me to post it there too again? I'll just go ahead and post it.
Yeah, every time I try to throw it away, it keep coming back like a boomerang.
I said, no, I'm not trying to leave yet. All right, relatives, give me 1 second, making sure everybody has a copy of where we at. Okay, posted it there. Let's post it in the YouTube chat if anybody wants to grab it. Post it one more time. Grand Rising Antonio Baptiste. Peace, peace. All right. Now we're starting, like we were saying, the French and Indian Wars, 1754 to 1763, and this is part of the 7 Years' War. And corner number one, we have Great Britain, British America, the Iroquois Confederacy, the Catawba, and the Cherokee until 1758. In corner number two, we have France, New France, the Wabanaki Confederacy, the Abenaki, the Micmac Militia, the Algonquins, the Lenape, was it the Obi, the Ottawa, the Shawnee, and the Wyandot. So let's just pull this up. It doesn't have a result because it goes on for 7 years. Let's start at this one. It states, the French and Indian War, 1754 to 1763, pitted the colonies of British America against those of New France, each side supported by military units from the parent country and by American Indian allies. At the start of the war, the French colonies had a population of roughly 60,000 settlers, compared with the 2 million in the British colonies. The outnumbered French particularly depended on the Indians. The European nations declared a wider war upon one another overseas in 1756, 2 years into the French and Indian War, and some view the French and Indian War as being merely the American theater of the worldwide 7 Years' War of 1756 to 1763.
Stop right
However,
there. Stop right there.
mm-hmm,
Stop right there. Stop right there. Stop right there.
mm-hmm,
Go back to the numbers. How many were on the French side and how many were
oh,
on?
You
It'd
caught
be
that
interesting.
too, huh?
Because those
They said,
numbers sound eerily familiar.
yeah,
Okay.
don't they? It said at the start of the war, the French colonies had a population of roughly 60,000 settlers, compared with the 2 million in the British colonies that outnumbered French, particularly dependent on the Indians.
Do y'all recall another war where there was like 2 million to so many thousand?
We talk about that civil war.
Hmm. Just just a thought.
Very interesting.
I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
anybody caught that. 2 million to well, it was 2 million to 750,000 with the Civil War,
Mm-hmm.
and 2 million
Mm-hmm.
for the Union, and 750,000 for the Confederation. But it's that 2 million number.
Yeah, because right here, but think about it. See, there's a number that's missing, and I'm glad that you pointed that out too. They said there was 750,000 to 2 million. At this time, they're not telling you how many Indians that the French got. They just letting you know there's 60,000 French settlers that depended heavily on Indian nations. And we know the
Mm.
Indians, and we know the first one of the first Indian nations of Indians were the Iroquois.
The Iroquois Confederation, if I'm not mistaken.
Ain't that code word for French? Say like we, they like you, and all that type of good stuff. But y'all follow where we're going with this.
I'm sorry.
Mm-mm.
Please continue.
It says, however, the French and Indian War is viewed in the United States as a singular conflict, which was not associated with any European war. The name French and Indian is used mainly in the United States, referring to the two enemies of British colonists, while European historians use the term Seven Years' War, as do English speaking Canadians. French Canadians call it the Guerre de la Conti, War of Conquest, or really the Fourth Intercolonial War. The British colonists were supported at various times by the Iroquois, the Catawba, and Cherokee tribes. Hold on. Blah, blah, blah. Let me re-say this. The British colonists were supported at various times by the Iroquois, Catawba, and Cherokee tribes. Now let's
Mm-mm-mm.
rewind for a second. Now, not too long ago, weren't these same tribes, well, not the Cherokee, because this is when the Cherokees just starting to pop up. But wasn't a war not too long ago where these same Iroquois were back in the French?
Yeah, I thought so.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to make sure because I remember they fought along with French when they fought the British. Okay, now they fighting along with the British. Just pointing out certain keys as we go. Okay, it says the British colonists were supported at various times by the Iroquois, the Catawba, and Cherokee tribes, and the French colonists were supported by the Wabanaki Confederacy member tribes, Abenaki, Micmac, and the Algonquin, Lenape, Abawa, Ottawa, Shawnee, and what's that, Wyandotte tribes. Fighting took place primarily along the frontiers between New France and the British colonies, from the province of Virginia in south to Newfoundland in the north. It's a lot of distance they covered for fighting. It began with a dispute over control of the confluence of the Allegheny River and Monongahela River called the Forks of Ohio. You got a Mongolian name in Ohio. And the site of the French fort was this Duquesne in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. The dispute erupted in violence in the Battle of Drummondville Glen in May 1754, during which Virginia Millermen, Millermen under the command of 22-year-old George Washington ambushed a French patrol.
Hmm.
In, in 1755, six colonial governors met with General Edward Bardock, the newly arrived British Army commander, and planned a four-way attack on the French. None succeeded, and the main effort by Bardock proved a disaster. He lost the Battle of the Monongahela on July 9, 1755, and died a few days later. British operations failed in the frontier areas of the province of Pennsylvania and the province of New York during 1755 through 1757 due to the combination of poor management, internal divisions, effective Canadian scouts, French regular forces, and Indian warrior allies. In 1755, the British captured Fort, what's that, Bijor, on the border separating Nova Scotia from Acadia, and they ordered the expulsion of Acadians. Hold on. In 1755, the British captured Fort Beauséjour on the border separating Nova Scotia from Acadia, and they ordered the expulsion of Acadians. 1755 to 1764, soon afterwards. Orders for the deportation were given by Commander-in-Chief William Shirley, without direction from Great Britain. The Acadians were expelled, both those captured in arms and those who had sworn loyalty oath to the king. Indians, likewise, were driven off the land to make way for settlers from New England. The British colonial government fell in the region of Nova Scotia after several disastrous campaigns in 1757, including a failed expedition against Louisburg at the siege of Fort William Henry. This last was followed by Indians torturing and massacring their colonial victims. William Pitt came to power and significantly increased British military resources in the colonies at a time when France was unwilling to risk large convoys to aid the limited forces that they had in New France, preferring to concentrate their forces against Prussia and its allies, who were now engaged in the 7 Years' War in Europe between 1758 and 1760. The British military launched a campaign to capture French Canada. They succeeded in capturing territory in surrounding colonies and ultimately the city of Quebec. 1759. The British later lost the Battle of Saint-Foy, west of Quebec. 1760. But the French ceded Canada in accordance with the Treaty of Paris. 1763. France also ceded its territory east of the Mississippi to Great Britain, as well as French Louisiana west of Mississippi River to its ally Spain in compensation for Spain's losses to Britain of Spanish Florida. Spain had ceded Florida to Britain in exchange for the return of Havana, Cuba. France's colonial presence north of the Caribbean was reduced to the islands of Saint Pierre and Miquelon, confirming Great Britain's position as the dominant colonial power in America. Ain't that something?
Okay.
Y'all seeing the picture?
How is it that Washington is gonna ambush the French, and then less than 15 years later, gonna get help from the French?
Hmm. 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 Very interesting.
Yeah, I'm flying squirrels. Like, that's a lot of tribes. Yeah, that's true.
I'm posting it back up in there. Posted it right back in the chat.
And Antonio said the Natchitoches Indians stood in battle beside Saint Denis throughout his service to the French king. On one such battle, revenge of the savage death of the French missionary by the
Yeah, Chickamaugas.
Comanche in
Yeah.
1707.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the French been over here longer than U.S. history want to tell you. Them and Spain been here for a while, and there's some nations before France and Spain that been here for a long time.
Michael Robinson asks, has anyone read the book Columbus the Moor?
Uh-uh. And LJ Free is like playing. It's like they're playing cards with our land, just shuffling it around like it has no rightful owners. No, it's a little deeper than that. See, I caught something in the story. Over here, they tell us French Indian Wars. When everybody else know it was a world war
Actually, it
and
was the fourth
America
iteration of a
of a
world war.
world
They call
war
it intercontinental war. Yeah.
that played out on our land. The whole world know this. So what that's telling me is that France expanded themselves too far with their colonies over here because they picking up colonies here, colonies here. So what these Britons did, they realized they spread it too thin. So I'm gonna attack you on your homeland. Cause see, at the same time that France is over here kicking Britain behind on this landmass, let's not forget Napoleon was over there whooping the snot out of them. So once the Britain got together and pulled their forces, and they realized let's attack them on their home front. You notice France had the sea land over here and gave it to Britain. So now you have to ask yourself, if the French is whooping tail in the war on this landmass, why would they be ceding any land to the British? Why would Spain be getting compensation? That's because they were losing the war on their motherland. And in return for Britain to stop bombarding them, Britain asked for their colonies that they had here. The whole article we just read shows you them ceding land and giving land to these people. So let's ask the question. If I'm whooping you, why am I going to give you anything? Anybody?
Hmm. Well, you just feel bad?
Well, it doesn't matter if you're winning the war over here. This is a land. This is the war for resources. Those
Mm-hmm.
resources are going to support the war back home. But
Back
if you're
home.
losing land at home, then it doesn't matter how many resources you're gaining over here because you're losing the main fight. This wasn't the main fight. This was a fight for resources to support the wars and to support the
Mm-hmm.
other battles. So this
Mm-hmm.
was a secondary war. That's the reason why France wasn't expending that many resources over here because they had Indians. But it didn't matter the Indians over here were winning because they were losing ground at home. So this war was fought to support the other wars. It was a battle of resources to send that currency or those resources back to support the war so they can gain territory. So if you losing territory, then it doesn't matter the resources that you have because you end up having a whole bunch of resources and then losing your land, which means you're going to end up losing the resources over here anyway. So that's just my 2 cents. I really just might.
No, you hit it. You hit it dead on. Let's stop looking at history as a linear straight line. Remember, at the same time when France is over here spreading out, getting all up in Canada and forming these things, aren't over there on their continent Napoleon going all off in Egypt, going here, going there? So basically, they doing expeditions on 2 campaigns. Let's be realistic. Your resources gonna go low. And next question: has anybody noticed the size of France before the war and the size of the French territory after the war?
It's getting smaller.
See, the more and more we look at this history, you realize Britain didn't fire nan shot, catch nan slave, did no type of tedious work to get over here. It's the same backstabbing going on and on and on and on and on and on and on. Mm-mm-mm. And that's just the French and Indian War, the beginning of the 7-Year War. Next up, the Anglo-Cherokee War, 1758 to 1761. On one side, you have Great Britain. On the other side, you have the Cherokee. Now, let's do not forget, and from 1754 to 1758, Great Britain and the Cherokee were allies. Let's open up the Anglo-Cherokee War and see what it states. The Anglo-Cherokee War, 1758 to 1761. In the Cherokee language, the war with those in the red coats, or war with the English, was also known from the Anglo-European perspective as the Cherokee War, the Cherokee Uprising, or the Cherokee Rebellion. This war was a conflict between British forces in North America and Cherokee Indian tribes during the French and Indian War. The British and Cherokee had been allies at the start of the war, but each party had suspected the other of betrayals. Tensions between British American settlers and the Cherokee increased during the 1750s, culminating in open hostilities in 1758. Says Prelude. After siding with the province of Carolina in the Tuscarora War of 1711 and 1715, the Cherokee had turned on their British allies at the outbreak of the Yamasee War of 1715-1717.
Pause.
You just see how they just renamed these people Cherokee all of a sudden?
So this is the first recorded from the European perspective of basically double agents.
Yeah.
So is it safe to say, well, while we're banging on our chest and bragging about being the first of all the good, this
First
is the
double
example
agents
of the first of us being bad?
playing both sides, trying to play both sides of the coin.
That's what it looks like to me. Again, this is from the European perspective, but this is the first recording of it. So the Cherokee had turned on their British allies at the outbreak of the Yamasee War from 1715 to 1717, until switching sides once again midway through the war. This action ensured the defeat of the Yamasee. The Cherokee then remained allies with the British until the French and Indian War. Hold on. They switched sides twice in the middle of a war.
Yeah.
So could it be
they were part instigators?
Playing two sides against the middle?
And got burnt. Flame on.
So could we be the first instigators? Could we be the first quote-unquote Benedict Donalds? Could we be the first turncoats? Could we be the first double agents? The chat made it quiet. Come on, let's hear it. We bigging our chest up about being the first everything. Now we starting to see that we the first of something bad. Now, don't come with the crickets now.
No. Facts, LJ. Gotta own it and get it right.
Bravehawk said, I think it was the mixed breed Cherokees that were the double agents. Well, there's one way to find that out. Get with your tribe. They'll tell you. They'll tell you the truth.
They'll let you know.
Because right now, it's speculation. If you Cherokee and you know, then your tribe. If you Cherokee and you know, go talk to the chiefs. Go talk to the councils. They'll tell you.
It's in their history. It's in their records.
Remember, this ain't about finger pointing.
It's about taking responsibility for actions that were done and getting it right this time.
Because if we're gonna blame half-breeds, where they come from.
You need another half to make that half-breed. No matter how you want to slice it up, dice it, chop it, flip it, rub it down, we still gotta take responsibility for actions that were done on our parts as tribal members. There's no way around that. We have to stop passing the buck. Because as long as we keep passing the buck, guess what? The problem doesn't go away. It's going to come back. And normally when problems that you try to avoid come back, they come back when you're feeling like you at the highest in your life. And it just pops its ugly head out of nowhere. Hey, remember me? So it's time for us to stop running and just face it and get it right. There's nothing to fear but fear itself. We done been through it all. So now let's face it.
So let's see what else happened. At the 1754 outbreak of the war, the Cherokee were allied with the British, taking part in campaign against Fort Duquesne at Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and the Shawnee of Ohio country. In 1755, a band of Cherokee, 130 strong, under Ostinako or Ustinako of Tamale, or Tamalady, took up residence in a fortified town at the mouth of the Ohio River at the behest of the Iroquois, who were also British allies. For several years, French agents from Fort Toulouse had been visiting the Overhill Cherokee on the Hiwassee and the Tellico rivers and had made inroads into those places. The strongest pro French Cherokee leaders were Mankiller, wow, okay, and or Utsidihi of Taliqua, or Talico Plains, Old Caesar of Chutugwa, or Sutugi, Chattanooga, and Raven Kalanu, or Ayuasi, or Hiwase, the first beloved man, or Uku, of the nation. Kanokotoko, called Ohop, was very pro-French, as was his nephew, Kanoko Kotoko, Standing Turkey, who succeeded him at his death in 1760. Oh, they telling on everybody. The former site of the Coosa chiefdom was reoccupied in 1759 by the Muskogee contingent under Big Mortar, Yaya Tustangi, in support of pro-French Cherokee when residing in Great Talico and Chattooga. This was a step toward his planned alliance of Muskogee, Cherokee, Shawnee, Chickasaw, and Catawba, which would have been the first of its kind in the South, although such an alliance did not come into being until the days of Dragging Canoe. Big Mortar still rose to leading chief of the Muskogee after the French and Indian War. Somebody tell him.
And it's just like how
The hood talks.
Braveheart hit it right on the head. What we've been saying since we well, way before we touched into the Indian Wars, that the part we have to be honest about, there were some of us that were cool with the invaders, and there were some of us that wasn't. There's no way around that. There's no way around that. And the only way you're gonna know what part your tribe's played in it is by doing genealogy and finding your tribe. In fact, Jaguar, yeah, there's a lot of betrayal that went on. There's a lot of backstabbing among people. Because what? Starting Monday, we read about how the Iroquois went out of their way to make deals with the French, told the French that they'll remove the other Indians in return if they gave them this, this, and this. That sounds like you making a choice for a deal. And Michael Robinson said something here. Like they said, we're the first slave masters. So what if and why not? If it was our ancestors that did went to Europe and enslaved them there, so there's getting payback now. See, and I'm glad that he said that because how TMH said multiple times before, we're so proud to bang on our chest to say we're the first. Melanated man and women ruled the world. So if melanated man and women ruled the world, who was putting people in slavery? Come on, let's do not get past the part that we do know that millions of Europeans were sent here as slaves. We do know this. This is factual. All of us in the sound of my voice know that they're the original first slaves. So who put them in that situation? We know our ancestors been leaving this landmass teaching the rest of the world. We brag about it all the time. How our technology was used to expand the rest of the world. Now we can't sit back here and glorify all the good we have done and at the same time hiding all the bad. We got to accept both with the same intensity. So if you banging on your chest when you going through this history and you see the great things we did, bang on your chest the same way when you see the things what we did wrong. When you see where we turned our back on our brothers and sisters, when we turned our back on our ancestors, with that same intensity, embrace it. Because with that same embracement of it, that's how we fix it and get out of it. Come
And
on,
if you
think about it. Oh,
yeah,
go
and if
ahead,
you
Tim.
know, and if you know tribes that know the that have different stories, w- here's the thing I've always found funny. We can always find cameras and record stuff when the police are beating up on black folks, but we can't never find no cameras when it comes time to talk to some tribal leaders. What are cameras at then? We can't never find no cameras when someone's claiming sovereign citizenship and they in the court and they stand on their square and they beating the courts. We can't never find no cameras in. Where the cameras at?
Facts.
Everybody who has a cell phone, unless it's a flip phone, you have a camera.
Mm-hmm.
If you're recording, you're talking to these tribes, record it. Record
Bang.
it. Get their permission. Record it. Tell the story. Let's stop doing this. Let's stop using third-party stories to support a narrative. Let's get
Because
actual factual information. And I'm not saying
isn't
that's
it?
what people are doing, but if we don't start talking to these tribes and telling their story, then what we have is third-party reference, which gives or lends credibility. Well, if you hear it from their mouths, then that's actual credibility. I relinquish the mic.
And I'm glad you said third party information. Because ain't that third party information why we in this situation now? How many years have our people accepted third party information that they came from Africa? So how are you going to bang against third party information on the right, then accept third party information on the left? You are the contradiction.
So Michael Robinson, he put something out there that's important. He said the Black Moors might have been the Incas and Mayans that went to Europe. I'm glad you made that statement, Michael. I got some information to share around the 9:30 time frame that might shed a little light on that. Stay tuned.
Hmm. Dynamite, shovels, bang.
Really? Even nine? Okay, it's messed up. But all right.
And what they call a cliffhanger? Well, I forgot what they call it.
Yep. I'm hanging there.
Facts, Antonio. We can't be reading articles off of Wikipedia either. But what you must do, you have to take the information from books, Wikipedia, and the sources, and you match it all up. And also with the stories of your tribe. See, it doesn't
You got
matter.
to cross reference everything.
Yeah, it doesn't matter where the story comes from. You must research the source and that source of the information. And then you take all this information and you put it together and you start comparing it. Because like we said before, there's going to be three sides to every story. I don't care what the story is. Theirs, yours, and the truth lies in the middle. So we must do our due diligence in researching this information and comparing it. And that's why we say the information, the stories and stuff that we bring to light and put out, we're not saying it's all there is and that's the law. We in every show saying if you find information that goes against, that goes with, or shows another way, present it. Because we're all in this to learn together. We're just pointing out that there's some dark parts in our history that we have to stop brushing over. Because maybe because we keep skipping that part is why we're still in this situation. Because for too long, we give other people power over us. We keep saying somebody did this to us. So let's be real. If you saying somebody put you in that situation, you're waiting for somebody to get you out that situation. So who you giving power to again?
The person that put you in that situation. And here's another thing that is basically a microcosm and an overlapping of our continuous history. This he said, she said, BS. I'm gonna say it again. This he said, she said, BS. So let's give you an example of what that means.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just say, for example, no sellout and I are having a conversation, and I tell no sellout, "Hey man, you know Bones been sprinkling some dirt on your name, and he been saying this and he been saying that, and if I were you, I wouldn't trust him." What normally happens is no sellout would take my word for it and then just
React.
react instead of asking me, "Yo man, I mean, well if that's the case, do you mind or would you mind us all having a conversation so I can get his side to the story?" I'm gonna say that again. What doesn't happen is no sellout asking me if I would mind having a conversation with him, myself, and Bones to get to the bottom of this, to straighten it out, to get rid of that he said, she said nonsense. See, we don't do that. We just accept somebody's word. We don't test every spirit, and we just go off of what somebody say. And then all of a sudden, that's how wars get started. That's how beefs get started. And the
Mm-hmm.
person walk away with clean hands because ain't nobody testing them. Ain't nobody verifying the information. Everybody just going off of it because of what somebody say.
I'm talking about a miscommunication.
But at the end of the day, if you everybody always has that one relative that be like, nah, 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 nah. We getting everybody together. We gonna squash this once and for all. And normally the person that mess is nowhere to be found. So there was a lot of that going on both sides, on the colonial side, the European side, and the Indian side. Had these individuals got together and had a conversation, they would have found out who the snakes were. See, because as long as those two parties never get together, the person in the middle can spin the story any way they want to, and
Yep.
that goes on not only that community, not only this community, but in all communities.
That's a human condition. We all been in third grade when they make everybody sit down in a circle and somebody tell a story and it goes around the circle. When it comes back, the story be so far from the original story. Come on, we know what time it is. If we understood it when we were children, why we don't understand it now? Let's stop choosing to turn a blind eye.
We need to start questioning each other and holding each other accountable. If you really care about me, you're gonna hold me accountable. You're not just gonna look at what I do or where I'm at and then take what I say with a grain of salt and be like, well, it must be true because TMA said, or it must be true because we look alike, or it must be true because he's melanated. No,
Never that. We tell you even when we tell you something. Don't take our word for it. This the source. We're showing you the source. Post the source. Check out the source. We're human as well, so we could miss something that you might catch. That's all it's about. Presenting the information so our people can receive it and showing you how to apply it.
if we want true unity, we must start holding each other accountable. We must start calling out the BS. Now, I'm not saying call the BS out in public because I don't agree with that. But if there's some mess or some BS going on, we need to get the parties involved and have a conversation behind the scenes, not in front of the
Mm,
camera. No
and
one
that's how
needs to
it's
know what's
supposed to be
going on.
done. Exactly. Exactly. Because that's how business is handled. Because if it's our business, why are we involving everybody else in our business? We have to start minding our business and be man and woman enough. If you feel like somebody did you wrong, to be man and woman enough to address them. And if somebody felt like you did them wrong, be man and woman enough to listen to how they feel like they've been treated wrong. I think they've been treated wrong. Because a lot of times it's miscommunication that leads to misunderstandings. We must go back to communicating with each other. Stop being so emotional and listen. Treat others how you want to be treated. I mean, it's not hard. We're choosing to make it hard. You just gonna say something, TMH?
It's being real. It's just holding each other accountable. We have been guilty. I've been guilty of not doing holding people accountable and just letting people say something, then taking it at face value, then getting hemmed up on the back end.
Mm-hmm.
So I stopped doing that. You know, if I'm gonna get pulled into a back chat, I need to know that everybody in that back chat got somebody that's gonna vouch for who they are. Because if you don't, I don't know you. But I need to know that somebody I know knows you, and I need to know that somebody that knows you is gonna vouch for you. And if they not gonna vouch for you, then why are they in here and why are we having this conversation? Who's gonna vouch for you? Are you associating with people that you can't vouch for, that you ain't never seen, that you ain't never met? You don't know their real names. You don't even know where they live. You just know what they told you.
We gotta break these bad habits and these bad cycles that keep putting us in these conditions. We must put emotions aside. Where have emotions got us? Well, to the point to they play us like pawns every day off these emotions. Oh, these Negroes, they're backing away from the system. Let's shoot one of them in the street. We'll get them out here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how many times we seen the movie? Y'all ain't tired of the script? Y'all are not
Right.
tired of that script?
You know
And
it
who
by
should
heart.
we really be mad at? Should we be mad at the writers of the script or the actors that keep accepting the BS script and playing it out every day?
Right. Now we will return back to our regular
Regularly
regular
scheduled
schedule
program.
program.
When we say we was in the Anglo Cherokee War, let me repost this for those who coming in who want to all have what we're reading from. Just reposted it in the chat. And from right, we were at the here we go. You started the point. No, we did
I
at
left
the
off at
700.
the
You
early
said
stages.
the early stages. Hold on. Let's see. Da, 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 da. Okay, let's go from here. I'll back up for because you don't went through the chieftain. Da, da, okay. The early stages. It said the Anglo-Cherokee War broke out in 1758 when Virginia militia attacked Maichoy. Well, Amo Aduwat of Sitco in retaliation for the alleged theft of some horses by the Cherokee. Maichoy's reaction was to lead retaliatory raids on the Yucatan and Catawba rivers in North Carolina, which began a domino effect that ended with murders of 23 Cherokee hostages at Fort Prince George near Akawi, and the massacre of the garrison of Fort London near Chata, and it's Ista. These events ushered in a war which didn't end until 1761. The Cherokee were led by Agensta of Chata. Atikilla? I don't even want to mess his name up.
You might come looking for it.
Attakulla of the Tansi what's that? Ostinko, Tamilito, as Waishis of the lower towns and Round of the middle towns. During the second year of the French and Indian War, the British had sought Cherokee assistance against the French and their Indian allies. It states the English had reports which proved accurate that indicated the French were planning to build forts in Cherokee territory, as they had already done with Fort Charlesville at the Great Salt Lick on the Cumberland River, Fort Tosley near present-day Montgomery, Alabama, Fort Rosalie at Natchez, Mississippi, Fort St. Pierre at modern-day Yazoo, Mississippi, and Fort Tombeki on the Tongabe River. Once the Cherokee agreed to be their allies, the British hastened to build forts of their own in Cherokee lands, completing Fort Prince George near Keowee and South Carolina among the lower towns, and Fort Lundy near Chata at the mouth of the Talaco River in 1756. Once the forts were built, the Cherokee raised close to 700 warriors to fight in the Western Virginia colony under Oncosta and Attack. I'm gonna call them Attack. Led another large group to Fort Toulouse. In 1758, the Cherokee prepared in the taking of Fort Dunsaby, present-day Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. However, they felt their efforts were unappreciated. While traveling through Virginia on their way home, several Cherokee were murdered by Virginians. The Cherokee had been promised supplies but misunderstood where they were to get them from. After taking some horses they believed were rightfully theirs, several Virginians killed and scalped between 30 and 40 of them. Later, the Virginians claimed the scalps are those of Shawnees and collected bounties for them. Ugh.
So pause. All this started, again, taking into consideration, consider the source, but all this started because of an alleged theft of some horses by the Cherokee.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. There go that word again.
Yeah, that death ain't alleged though.
No.
It ain't alleged.
That you scalp somebody.
That ain't alleged.
He says the Anglo-Cherokee War broke out in 1758 when the Virginia militia attacked Moytoy of Sitco in retaliation for the alleged theft of some horses by the Cherokee. So the Virginia militia attacked Amo Adawi of Sitco in retaliation for some alleged theft of some horses by the Cherokee. So let's paint this picture. The Cherokee apparently or allegedly told the Virginia militia that Moytoy of Sitco stole some horses. And the Virginia militia attacked them without confirmation. There was no verification of the information being passed. They just reacted.
Let me say it, emotional reaction.
It'd be like you in your neighborhood. You come home and find out that your house been broken into. And your neighbor says, yeah, I know who stole your stuff. Little Ricky down the street stole your stuff. And then you go talk to little Ricky mama. And then when you and little Ricky mama have a conversation in your front yard, your neighbor happen to be nowhere around. When all you had to do was ask your neighbor, well, are you willing to go down so we could talk to him so you could say that you saw him?
That neighbor in the window with binoculars, trying to see what's happening.
Through 8 feet of bushes, though.
Exactly, Free. It sounds like what happens. It sounds like what happens to our people to this day. You know,
They run till that.
Yeah, because
You
you
know,
got to remember the Cherokee started melanated. When a lot of these tribes started changing over, it's coming into the 1800s. At this time, a lot of them are still melanated heavily.
and here's something that we need to understand, which goes back to emotional intelligence, because Jaguar brought up a good point, and it's a very valid point. And he said we shouldn't have to speak on obvious, but it's needed for fakers, and that has everything to do with what I may have been exposed to is obvious. You might not have been exposed to is obvious. That's why we always say there's no such thing as a stupid question. We should stop assuming people know what we know. We should stop assuming people were raised how we were raised. We should stop assuming that people have the same morals and ethics that we do, simply because they share the same copper color skin tone or a hue of copper color skin tone. That's where that saying goes or comes from: all skin folk and kinfolk. Just because we look like one another, don't look like we all have the same moral compass. We all have the same values. We all have the same goals. If we ask and find out and confirm, then that keeps everybody from looking like a donkey.
Mm.
Facts. LJ Free said it perfect. Slow to speak, quick to listen. Is that we gotta judge righteously in this. And that means remove your emotions from it. See, when y'all saying the Cherokees are white, you have to go back in history and look. All Cherokees at this time are not white. See, this is what we say we have to start being honest. Who gave, and even, all right, scratch that. Let's do it like this. These all pale skinned tribes in the 1700s, if we want to make them all pale skinned in the 1700s, who gave them passes? Even the ones that are white that's in these tribes in the 1700s. We're talking 1700s.
Do you think we, Patrick Gabriel says, do you think we dropped our guards because of long relationships we had with black Moors in Europe? Stay tuned, Patrick.
Y'all have to realize is that we got to stop buying into the victim story that somebody imposed a forcing their way over here. Our ancestors been trading with people on record since the 1100s. There've been colonies from other nations here living among the American Indian, establishing trade and commerce. And LJ said it right. There's Cherokee people in the Cherokee Confederacy. And we must realize what a confederacy is. Confederacies are formed at times of war. That's why if you study the history and study the timeline, you'll see when particular bands of Indians got together, they became a confederate because they were fighting.
Exactly. We have to be very mindful when we start making blanket statements about tribes, because just because there are us in here that are common, that don't mean there are not actual tribes watching and paying attention. So when we make statements, please make sure that we have some supporting documents instead of just making blank statements. Or if nothing else, pose it in a question. Because when we make blanket statements like they were all the Cherokees were all white, we need to have something to support that.
I can tell you factually that they wasn't. All the Cherokees were not white. There's stories we can go back to the Iroquois and the tribes that made them up. When the French came here, them people weren't white. Them people were melanated.
And be careful. Some of the people that you actually talking to in this chat might be Cherokee and can prove that they Cherokee. So then what?
That's why we say again, do your genealogy so you know. See, to sit around and guess and throw blatant statements, that's the colonized mind. That's the colonizer's trait. That's what we must be fighting against. All these different confederacies are just what groups of tribes were identified as. Instead of calling 8 tribes out by their individual name, they called them all under one name. That's why you see particular confederacies you don't see later on down the line. It's because the confederacy disbands after a war. But don't take my word for it. Talk to a chief. Talk to a tribal chief. Look at the tribal records. It wasn't original 1 year, but it's a little deeper than that. Is that a lot of the Indian men were having children with European women. That a lot of Indians were buying Europeans as slaves. Are we going to keep overlooking this part? Are we going to keep overlooking that melanated tribes made deals with Europeans, made deals with Spanish, made deals with the French to eliminate other Indians? The Choctaw was first on the list. They sold their own people out. Went out west, got oil land, and what did they say? Oh, them ones that's left back there, they
They're
ain't
not.
Choctaw.
They're not Choctaw. They're not
Some
Choctaw.
people are melanated. So what we gonna keep doing? Anytime there's something bad in our history, it's gonna be white, and all the good stuff us. Really? That's what we doing? Is that what we really resorting to?
What kind of guy you are? What kind of person are you? You gonna go with that? Come on, really? For real?
We're in the 1700s. The Cherokees that y'all talking about don't come around to the 1800s.
Because like you said, they weren't called Cherokees then.
No, they were not. So now let's think. Let's step back, put the emotions aside, and face this head on. That no matter what the wrong is, what is done is done. Now it's time for acceptance of the wrong so we can move forward.
So let's clear up one misconception. In order for the language, in order for there to be a common language and for all of us to speak to the traders, there had to be a willing Indian participant to help translate the languages. Let's say the Micmac,
Hmm.
who had hieroglyphics
Hmm.
that were translated into Latin.
Hmm. So now we're gonna go back and we're gonna do the same thing that we know they do. We're gonna go back and we're gonna re-identify them and make them another class of people because it fits our narrative now. No, see, that's not what we about here. And that BS will get you put out the house.
Where did the
What, go
where
ahead.
the United States Constitution come from? What language was it originally written in? We the people.
Hmm?
What language is that? That was Algonquin, right?
So now we finna go back and make all them white now too. Come on, relatives. If we say we here for truth, if we say we here for the love of our people, for the respect of our ancestors, then let's get it right this time. Drop all them emotions at the door. Drop all the unnecessary baggage at the door.
Joe 47, they couldn't have done it without help. That's the point that we're trying to get across. Everything that we're accusing the colonizers of doing, they did, but they had help.
I'm finna put it in a time frame that the majority of everybody listening can relate to. What happened to us 1988, 1989, TMH?
You said what happened to us in 1988, 1989?
Yeah.
We became African Americans.
Now, to everybody out here that's complaining that got something to say, how many of y'all stood up and said anything when you went to sleep, a
Negro.
Afro American, a black, a Negro, and woke up an African American? Don't get quiet now. How many of you were fighting that back in the 80s and 90s?
So this is what we're gonna do. When this comes up again in 40 years, we just gonna say Jesse Jackson was white. How about we do that?
Then we can do that, right? That's what we've been doing.
Yeah, we can. I
That's what,
mean,
we
40
can
years
do
from
that.
now, we just make him white.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah.
It
Mark it
wasn't
on
a
your calendar.
melanated man. It was a white man, and his name wasn't Jesse. It was really Jethro. And he
Jethro.
was part of the
Yeah.
KKK. He was a
Mm-hmm.
Grand Dragon.
Yep.
I mean, that sounds like some colonizer thinking there. Because ain't that's what they do? Don't own up to it, just rewrite the story. That's what we doing
Yeah.
now?
Yeah. Let's do that.
That's what we about.
Easy way out. Easy way out.
Forget truth and justice. Forget the ancestors that sacrificed for us to have this chance when it come back around. Forget all that. No. We don't even got to work no more. Matter of fact, why are we even here talking? We just going to be ready 40 years from now. I'm sorry. Woo.
Yeah,
Mm-mm-mm.
there was a five melanated panel that went to the White House and went to Congress and determined that all of us were going to be African Americans, and none of us disputed it.
Woke up the next day and put it down on paper.
Yep, many of us agreed to it. So how's that any different than what our ancestors were doing back in the 1500s, the 1600s, and the 1700s? Did somebody
I
have a
got
gun in Jesse Jackson's head making them do that?
and one of y'all back in your school days. Let's keep it 100. Somebody made you put down African American. Back when y'all was back there rocking them Jordans and Spike Lee do the right thing. Somebody put a gun to your head? Huh? We was out here listening to PE and Grand Nubian, rocking all this African stuff and cross colors. Somebody put a gun to our head and made us do it then? Somebody broke in your house and said, hey, yo, you gonna wake up in the morning, this what you gonna rock or else? It doesn't matter where we was and what we were doing. You know what I'm saying? We have to stop making excuses. We wasn't minding our business.
No, but Golden Moon is with you on this. He says most of us was outside playing, threw up tackle in '89. LOL. But I'll take that one. I'm with you, Golden Moon.
Yeah.
I was 18, 19 years old. But the whole point was our parents and our grandparents were around, and they didn't say anything to stop it.
And don't they sins fall on us? There's no excuse. We are the parents now. We are the grandparents now. So what are we gonna do? You're looking at the mess that we were put into when we were a child. Now we have a chance to right the wrongs. So what are we gonna do? We're gonna right it, or we're gonna push off the same stuff that we complain on to the next generation and the next generation and the next generation and the next generation. That's all I'm saying. It's not pointing blame. It's saying that if we don't take responsibility, it's not about pointing blame. It's to get you to realize we must take responsibility. Let's do what hasn't been done before. Look in our history and see when we took responsibility for our situation. I'll wait. Show me in history where you studying where it shows that we stopped blaming somebody else for our conditions and we took it amongst ourselves and got it right.
David Carey says the more material things you have, the further you are away from yourself. Exactly, because the more you are consumed by commerce. We went from being producers to consumers.
And what did they tell you in the census? Let's rewind to last week. What did they say? Any Indian who lived in their lifestyle, did the European things, over time, what was you considered? Their citizen?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, just
Or,
checking.
or a subjugate.
Hmm. Now, ain't we killing ourselves to live in their image of a lifestyle? Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Them Jordans. Was that a melanated person told you they was hot? Huh? Or that was some foreigner that put it on a melanated person and said it was hot? I'll wait. Y'all still with me out there? We
Yeah,
got to
he owns
start making
about
ourselves
he,
accountable.
he owns about what 30% of stock in Nike now because he has his own
Mm-hmm.
brand.
Mm-hmm.
Ain't played ball in like what 20 years.
Mm-hmm. But still, only 30%. Yeah, I know that's a lot compared to the majority of our people. But what I'm trying to say is look at the bigger picture. Huh?
No, 60 years we'll just make them white.
Can't get it all.
Come on, man. Let's look at the things that's in our so-called culture that we throw our money away at. Let's pull that veil back and see who's really behind it. Do they like you and me? I don't think so. But that don't stop you running out there every day, breaking your arm and neck to take what you bust your behind for and giving it to them, does it? Come on, man. But then when somebody brings you information about yourself, your history, we want to fight against it. Hmm. Wasn't we told that the truth would make it very uncomfortable? And the truth's supposed to be uncomfortable? I don't think y'all hear me. Don't the truth supposed to make people uncomfortable?
Very. And
So what are we
before
buying for?
and,
Go
bef-
ahead, dear man.
and before the narrative gets drawn, which I'm sure it might, but that's okay. That we are exonerating the Europeans in any wrongdoing. That's not what we're saying. We're saying we need to take responsibility for the part that we played. We already know what part they played. We're exposing the part that we played. And I don't think many of us like the part that we played. I don't like the part that we played. But I gotta accept responsibility for the part that we played. If I'm gonna fix it. Because I can't fix what the Europeans are doing, but I can fix what we did.
Yep.
Golden Moon said, the homie told me my journey was going to get ugly.
Right,
Yeah,
man.
and it is because the if you it, if we really be honest with ourselves and look at the conscious community as a whole, we always paint this picture, or we've always had this picture painted for us that we lived in this utopian society where there was no jealousy, there was no envy, there were no sins, and then some outsider came in and corrupted us. Well, even if that was the case, somebody had to let that outsider in. Somebody had to vouch for that outsider. Think about that. Somebody said, "Nah, they cool," and because they said the outsider was cool, everybody was like, "All right, welcome."
Facts.
But then we want to remake the story and be like, well, no, that's not really what happened. No one vouched for this person. They were conniving. They was a smooth talker, and they just did a genie. They just appeared out of nowhere, put us all asleep, and we, before you know it, they were here.
Hmm.
No, that ain't the case. We got to be honest with ourselves, man. We play a large part in this.
The major part in it. We are the major part on our end. Cause see, I'm not. I refuse. I refuse. I'm gonna say it again. I refuse to give somebody that power over me. For me to sit here and be like somebody else is responsible is a major responsibility for my condition. Are you not here? I'm sorry, I ain't built like that. Mm-mm.
Not that my bone. I ain't built like that either, bro. I just can't give somebody. I can't give somebody that type of control over my life, especially as I continue to dig and do my research and find out about my ancestors and the part that they played, and talking to tribes and doing the research and digging in the records, and it's confirming the role that they played.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you don't play any part in it, and you watched it happen, you're
You
just as
play a
guilty.
part in it. You just as guilty. Cause wrong is wrong and right is right.
Is that trying to be neutral over there? Trying to
Ain't
be
no.
neutral?
There's no such thing as neutral when a wrong is happening. How?
Mm.
How can you be neutral when wrong is occurring? When an unjust is happening? There is no neutral party. Think
Hey,
about
there
that.
are some. There are some that are neutral. This just what kind of person are you to be neutral? That's what it is.
No, 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 no. Ow! Justice is going down, and you sit there and watch. You ain't neutral. You guilty. Man, check this out.
oh
Let
man.
a old, let an old lady be sitting out there. Somebody run up on her gunpoint, and you sit right there. You sit your grown, good for nothing behind right there and let it go down. And you think you don't come
Neutral.
back in my neighborhood? Let me hush. Why incriminate myself?
Man, your morals right.
You got it. There's always a choice.
Moralities in this.
If you call yourself neutral, you chose to do nothing. And I'm like TMH. For all you neutral folks, please, I don't need you around me. Cause that neutral stuff get people hurt.
David Corey said, "No, they're not neutral. They filming."
Oh man, that's 2019 accurate right there.
Exactly, Antonio. Silence is representation of co-ownership. You sanctioning wrong.
And see, I told you this part of the conversation was going to be painful because some people have left, which is fine. I understand that, and I and,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
I understand that people are upset and they're mad. And again, so people are not going to try to misrepresent the narrative. We are not, by any stretch of the imagination, alleviating the Europeans for any part that they played.
No, we're not. They guilty too.
What I am saying is, we were partners in this. We were not innocent bystanders.
Mm-hmm.
And even in,
Partners in it.
and even in the phonetics of the word, in no sense bystanding,
Mm-hmm.
standing by. which means you were acting neutral and recording.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly, original one. My name is Bennett. I ain't in it. You in it because you didn't do nothing.
You ain't do nothing. I mean, come on, you. I'm finna show you how bad this neutral thing is. Your child out there by the road. This grown adult standing out there. See the children playing in the road. Can get the child out the way but choose not to do nothing. Oh, ain't my child. Let that marinate for a second. So for all you neutral lovers, you telling me you cool with them telling you that answer to your child. Or your child at school fall and get hurt, but you find there was an adult there that could have prevented the accident. But they neutral though. I mean, come on. We got to really think this through. How on one hand we gonna say we want better, but we allowing the foolishness from our own because you look like me. When I look at this history, I see the people who look like me are the ones that started this foolishness. I'm questioning you first, second, and third.
Neutral. That's dangerous.
Put your car in neutral on the hill. Tell me how that works.
Be an accident on purpose, waiting to happen. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. At the end of the day, we're just saying we have our ancestors had played a role in this. That's all we're saying. They played a role in it. Free says a neutral is a new troll. Wow. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Mm-mm-mm. So you wanna read one more part of this article before I drop the bomb.
Um, no, really, you
Where
can
are we
start
at?
next minutes.
Where are we?
But we got the war part, and that's like pretty long. It's up to you. I mean, I can read the war part,
Yeah,
unless you want to do it at that specific time,
yeah,
or
we
we can
can we
stop.
can. No, we're gonna read the war part. We're gonna read the war part.
Okay.
I'll
All
read
right.
it. I'll read it. While some Cherokee leaders still called for peace, others led retaliatory raids on outlying pioneer settlements. The Cherokee finally declared open war against the British in 1759. A number of Muskogee under Big Mortar moved up to
Mic check. Am I
Kusuwat.
breaking up or y'all breaking up?
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, I hear you loud and clear.
Hold on for a second. Gotta get the door.
Hmm. Getting deep in here. We turning up the heat, and we just in the 1700s. It's 2019. Not to mention Indian wars were still going on in the 1900s. Woo!
Hey, look, that was my laptop. It just came in. So,
Oh,
woohoo.
all right, all right.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and read the Cherokee War. Then we're gonna go ahead and get down to answer and address the more situation. Okay, so while some Cherokee leaders still call for peace, others led retaliatory raids on outlying pioneer settlements. So some Cherokees did call for peace. The Cherokee finally declared open war against the British in 1759. A number of Muskogee under Big Mortar moved up to Kusawati. These people had long been French allies in support of Cherokee pro-French faction centered in Great Pelico. So this is important because you got to remember the Cherokee, as other tribes, are breaking up into sides. They're choosing sides. So one tribe, one fraction of the tribe is choosing French. The other fraction of the tribe is choosing Great Britain. Please keep that in mind. The governor of South Carolina, William Henry Littleton, embargoed all gunpowder shipments to the Cherokee and raised an army of 1,100 men, which marched to confront the lower towns of Cherokee. Desperate for ammunition for their fall and winter hunts, the nation sent a delegation of moderate chiefs to negotiate. The 29 chiefs were taken prisoner as hostages and sent to Fort Prince George, escorted by a provincial army. Littleton thought this would ensure peace. Governor Littleton returned to Charleston, but the Cherokee were still angry and continued to attack frontier settlements in 1760. In February 1760, they attacked Fort Prince George in an attempt to rescue their hostages. The fort's commander was killed. His replacement massacred all of the hostages and fenced off the attack. The Cherokee also attacked Fort 96, but it withstood the siege. The Cherokee expanded their retaliatory campaign into North Carolina as far east as modern-day Winston-Salem. An attack on Fort Dobbs in North Carolina was repulsed by General Hugh Waddell. However, lesser settlements in North and South Carolina back country quickly fell to Cherokee raids. Governor Littleton appeal for help to Jeffrey Amherst, the British commander in North America. Amherst sent Archibald Montemore with an army of 1,200 troops, the Royal Scouts and Highlanders, to South Carolina. Montgomery's campaign raised some of the Cherokee lower towns into Kiowa. It ended with a defeat in Echoe Pass. When Montgomery tried to enter the Middletown's territory later in 1760, the Overhill Cherokee defeated British colonists at Fort Loudon and took it over. In 1761, Montgomery was replaced by British Army officer James Bryant. Excuse me. He led an army of 2,600 men, the largest force to enter the southern Appalachians to date. Against the Cherokee, his army moved through the lower towns, defeated the Cherokee of Echoe Pass, and proceeded to raise about 15 middle towns while burning fields of crops along the way. So, there you have it.
Now, the important part in there, like we said before, all Cherokees didn't go along with the deal, but we do see, like we seen in the prior ones before, splitting and choosing sides. Choices were made. Consequences and repercussions.
Yep. And speaking of consequences and repercussions, um, here it is. Some people know and some people don't that I've actually done my genealogy, traced my
Mhm.
genealogy on both sides back to my tribe. Um, on both sides of my family, I am Catawba Sapani. On my mother's side, in Wayne County, North Carolina, and in my father's side, in Caswell County, North Carolina. This has been confirmed by at least three different genealogists from three different tribes. I've had the opportunity to speak to some chiefs and learn about our history. It has also been confirmed by chiefs of other tribes or people that talk to chiefs from other tribes. So what I'm about to tell you can be verified. So we already know that the Catawba had a large had large dealings with both fractions of the Europeans. Okay, and as many of you may have suspected and already know, Catawba were actually the keepers of the waterways, which basically meant they were in charge of the waters. In some cases, the East Gate, and in some cases, the North Gate, which basically meant they ran this. They were in control. They are actually the Moors that was doing trades with the Vikings, the Acadians, and the Greeks. They were the ones that were going out and getting these quote unquote, white women and bringing them back to the Americas as slaves and having children with them. They was doing this way before the Europeans even got here. Those are facts. It's not something I heard. It's not something I made up. That is something that can be verified by different tribes. Tribes that are actually tied to this land. Tribes that actually have family members that are tied to this land. Okay? So with that being said, I already know for a fact that the tribe that I'm a part of had a huge part to play in this. If you think about it and you look at some of the journals, they actually said that there was an interpreter that came with them. Who do you think that interpreter was? More than likely, it was somebody in my tribe. Why? Because they spoke the language. They knew how to talk. They knew how to get that. They knew how to communicate because they were traders. So not only were they the first traders, they were the first traitors.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna say it again. Not only were they the first traders, they were the first traitors. They broke one of the biggest commandments, mixing with people they had no business mixing with. Period, point blank in discussion. So I've actually had the opportunity to speak with some chiefs from Catawba nations, some from Monacan, had opportunities to look at constitutions and bylaws. And this
We
is one thing I do know. We can fix this. We can correct this. And there is a large advantage to tying into your tribe and helping it. So here's the question I'm going to ask y'all. Now that y'all know that I am an Indian that is tied to a tribe and tied to the land and know the benefits of tying to your tribe and tying to your land, why on God's green earth would I encourage? Think about this. Why would I encourage anybody either subscribing to sovereign citizenship or sovereign nation, or why would I subscribe to anybody starting their own nation without tying into a tribe when there is no chief or no council member that I know that would support that, that would agree and say that's a good idea? Why would I do that? Wouldn't that make me? Wouldn't that make me a hypocrite? Wouldn't that make me worse than a colonizer if I did that? Because think about this: if I co-sign on you starting or becoming a sovereign, right, or becoming a sovereign nation, and you end up triggering an FBI hunt, and they end up coming to get you, are they coming to get me? They're not coming to get me. I'm already tied to a tribe. I can only prove who I am.
ah,
You, on the other hand, gonna get hemmed up.
ah. I don't think they heard you.
If I co-sign,
Hmm.
which you signing up for some sovereign nation, which is already being recognized and already being followed up and already assigning and attaching sign up for sovereign nations as being affiliated with the Black Panther Party who have committed crimes and murders, and with gangs who have committed crimes and murders. And anybody that's looking up and trying to be sovereign is going to be attached to that. And there is no chief that I've spoken to and no council that I've spoken to that would think that's a good idea. Why would I encourage you to do that? Wouldn't it be the right thing for me to do? Especially if I'm trying to atone for the sins of my ancestors, to tell you not to do that, to discourage you from doing that, to tell you what could happen if you did that. Now, what you do after I give you the information is on you. But if I'm encouraging you to do that, you might want to ask the question, why am I doing that?
What's the benefit?
What's the
What's the
benefit for
purpose?
me? What would be the benefit for me if I allow you to get hemmed up for signing up for sovereignty, or getting your own tribe, putting it in the trust, and then somebody come and get that land because they
You,
tie back to that tribe?
Hmm?
you must love carnage, I guess, just to see carnage.
Or it could be stated that I'm doing that because I know you're gonna lose that land. That's more land for me, which is pretty much what our ancestors have been doing since I don't know, the early 1100s.
Something they've been doing?
Since been doing it,
Something to think about. there are many people that are on these social media channels that are what I would call card carrying Indians who are tied to the land and tied to their tribes, and they are doing
Won't
some
tell.
phenomenal. They're doing it. Well, let's give credit what
Oh,
credit is due.
yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah. Let's give credit what credit is due.
My
There are a lot of tribes. There are a lot of people on YouTube and in social media that are actually discouraging people from doing something that's going to harm them and their potential tribal mates, and they're telling them not to
Mm-hmm.
do this, and they're putting them in
Mm-hmm.
contacts with chiefs and council members to say, "Hey, this is not a good idea." So they're doing a good job.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them belong to Catawba, some of them belong to other tribes. Some of them are in this chat, some of them are not. So there are those that are doing it, and also too some that are what you call card carrying Indians who are tied to a tribe by family might not be aware, or they might not have thought of it from that perspective. So this one time you'll get a pass. But if you've heard this and you're still doing it, why?
Why? And that's where I have my issue with the American Indians. You're in your rightful status, but you perpetuate the foolishness. Those the Indians I have a problem with, and I let it be known publicly because you're the traitor to me. How dare you get to a point and know there's many more of us that need the help and don't give back? We just don't come here to talk this. We wear it on our sleeves. This is who we are.
So here's a question again. We talked about holding people accountable because I'm always gonna come from the standpoint of you might not know any better or you might not have thought about it. So let's look at it from this standpoint. If any of us know of anybody that's a card carrying Indian who is associated with a tribe, and that tribe is on the land, and they have bylaws and a constitution, and they're talking to you, but they're not helping you with your genealogy, trying to get back to your tribe, you might want to ask them why. Why are they not
Mm-hmm.
helping you? Or
The
if they,
scenario was just 5 minutes ago.
yeah, or if they are helping other people go into the sovereign movement, and
Instead
they are
of helping
themselves
you.
right, and
Mm-hmm.
they themselves are actual card carrying Indians that have a tribe and a chief, but they're co-signing on sovereignty when their
You
chief
need to
nor their
question that.
council wouldn't sign off on that. You need to
Talking
ask them
about
why they're doing
what's
that.
the reason?
Why are they doing that? Ask them why. Or if they're
Let it
signing
be
off
known.
on, if they're signing off on, well, you don't need to tie to your tribe once you start your own tribe, which their chief nor their council would agree on and sign off on. Ask them why would they do that. Ask them why.
What? Yeah.
They may not have thought about it. They may not. They might think they're helping,
But just act.
but just ask. Just ask.
See here on here, autonomous assembly, where the autonomous ones assemble to do the work. Them days are over. The con games, the scheming of our people, that's over. The truth is gonna stand and it needs nobody to hold it up. We just here on the platform on the platform to present it. And like David Corey said, a teaching and wanting to charge.
And for those of my brothers and sisters that are part of a Siouan tribe, whether it's Catawba or Monacan or Monacan, as you say, or any other Siouan bands, either east or west of the Mississippi, I encourage you to do the right thing and help our brothers and sisters who have not yet found their tribes, who might be entertaining joining a sovereign union, who might be entertaining just foregoing finding their tribes and getting a land trust. Please discourage them from doing that. Please discourage them from doing it. Or if I'm saying something that's wrong or inaccurate, all you have to do is get your chief and your council to sign off saying it's okay for you to support that type of activity.
That's it.
If I'm wrong, then they wouldn't have a problem signing off on it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I could be wrong. I could be 100% wrong. But the information that I've seen so far doesn't lend to that. But if I'm wrong, I will come back on that and apologize. I will. I don't have a problem with that. I will make personal apologies if I'm wrong.
We always talk about gatekeepers, right? Ain't that the worst kind of gatekeeper? The person that looks just like you, has the keys to help you know who you are, but want to charge you?
Because at the end of the day, the last thing I want somebody to say to me, you might be pseudo, but you acting pseudo. I relinquish the mic.
Man, oh man, you don't want that.
Like I said, I'll go out there on the edge with my brother TMH. Waccamaw, Saponi, and Cherokee. So I know there's things I have to get right, and I'm not going to run from it. I got ancestors that did wrongs on both sides. And like I said before, not ashamed of it. We got to get this right. What was done was done. Now we're living in the now. Let's fix it. Gotta stop throwing dirt on it, thinking we can cover it up and start over. Too many wrongs been done. The blood is on our hands. Ain't enough dirt and scrubbing ever gonna get rid of that. They tell you brother was killing brother during the war. Who you think they talking about?
All of our wars have been family wars. All of them.
Like,
Again, I encourage all of those who have yet to find your tribe and who've yet to tie in. Reach out to us and we'll help you all that we can. Reach out to those individuals that are saying that they found their tribe. The first question you want to ask somebody who says they found their tribe is ask this question: does your genealogy tie back into the tribe and the land? It doesn't tie back into a surname that could be traced. Because if it's not tying back into a surname, there could be some problems. Because everybody that says they tied into a tribe might not necessarily be tied into a tribe. They
mm-hmm,
might be part of a tribe that's not really a tribe.
mm-hmm.
I'm just saying. You
Hey,
know.
it is what it is. The truth must be told.
And if that's the case, that's fine. People, the beautiful thing about this is people have the right to do what they want to do and move accordingly. But at the end of the day, like I said, I've talked to chiefs, I've talked to the council, and every every chief that I've talked to that is tied into this land, whose ancestors are tied into this land, who has the actual surnames in the records, will vehemently discourage anybody from trying to be a sovereign nation or going out starting your own tribe and try to put a trust on the land. These are existing tribes.
They've
So
been existing for hundreds of years now.
so what kind of person would I be when I'm talking to tribal members or talking to tribes whose history goes back or predates colonies to sit here and encourage anybody to do that, knowing what potential dangers that could lie ahead? That makes me no different than my ancestors. Matter of fact, that makes me worse than the colonizers. Why would I
Facts.
do that? So test everybody, test every spread. Make them show you who they are. If they say they're chief, prove it. Let me see your constitution. Let me see your bylaws. If you were a
Mm.
chief, you got voted in. You got nominated.
Yeah, chiefs are not self-appointed. Councils vote them in. Tribes vote in the council. We have always dealt with elections.
And constitution and bylaws generally are public records. And if a tribe has a website, it can normally be found on that website. And if you are part of a tribe and that tribe is tied into the land, you should be able to have a copy of those constitutions and bylaws. And if you don't have a copy of it, you might want to ask why not.
Bingo. Grand Rising. See, Sir James joined us. Is rising.
Greetings to everyone on the panel going in once again, like Barkley in '88, and to all those in the chat. It's been a long time. Shouldn't have left you. Keep hitting them with the heat. I give the mic.
Peace, James. Peace.
See, there y'all go starting again. They're gonna blame people. See.
So
Oh,
James.
David Corey, you said where do you get that?
So David, if you're part of a tribe, or you know somebody that's part of a tribe, and that tribe is tied into the land, and they're registered and they're state recognized, or they don't have to be state recognized. They can draft up their own constitution and bylaws. They should have a copy for you. You could ask for a copy. It could either be on their website or their council has it. Just ask for it. If you have a phone number for them, or you have a contact number, you could be able to ask for it, and they should be able to supply it. It's not like it's a sacred document or a secret document. If they're state recognized, at least it should be on their website, or they should have no problem with showing it.
Yeah, no special handshake required. None of that.
So Doodle Vision. I'm sure you've been listening to the show, and you and I have spoken extensively on some of the atrocities that my tribe has done. With the amount of extensive research and actual contacts with tribes from not only the Central America but from South America, what would you say to those individuals who are looking to become sovereign citizens or sovereign nation, or who want to start their own tribe and put it in a land trust? What would you say to them, if you don't mind?
Oh man, that sovereign citizenship equals death. That's it in a nutshell. If you think that you as an individual are going to be able to do a lot of things and move around, you are wrong. For one, you have no backing from any other entity. So you're literally out there on an island by yourself trying to run things. And if you think that you can't go and then read history and talk about that we put together government and we know the European government, but then you want to be lawless and without government because you decided, hey, I want to be the chief, I want to be the emperor, and I want to be the king. It doesn't work that way. And again, as more people start doing their genealogy and tracing back to the land, as we had discussed before, and if you think that you're going to be able to get land and put it in a trust, and these tribal members come back and say, hey, I can tie myself back hundreds of years, thousands of years to this land, then you are in trouble, because what backing do you have? I yield the mic.
Don't worry, I'll be dropping that antitrust video a little later. I gotta take nobody's word for it.
So James, what would you say about people who are trying to find their genealogy? They're trying to do their genealogy, and they're coming up against snags, and they're getting discouraged, and they just want to just start their own tribe. What would you say to them? What kind of encouragement could you give them?
One is continue digging and connect. If you're able to go back so far and you know what land, let's just say if you're only able to go back 3 generations, that most tribes want you to go back 4. If you're able to go back 3 generations, then contact the tribe of that land or the entity of that land where you're able to trace let's say your third great grandmother, and start from there and say, okay, what tribe, how how long have they been there, what tribes came in, and start from there. And I would also advise to check a lot of your churches, not these modern day mega churches. I mean these churches that have been established for well over 100 years that are in our community. They have records that even the courts don't have. So by all means, go and talk to the elders of that church, and they have those records. Most of them have it written down in an old Bible somewhere. You'll find that a lot of these churches that they may have changed locations, but they're in a storage room somewhere. Ask if you can go and spend time in there, or if they have a library. A lot of them have a library. They have those books in there, and you'll find your people within those books somewhere in there, whether baptism or when they joined that particular congregation, or the day that they were born, the whole nine. But check with the churches. I'm not telling anyone because I know people go like, oh no, the church. But if you're trying to find your records and find out who you are, a lot of the churches in our community, these indigenous churches, have your records. I yield the mic.
And one last question that I have. As an individual who has done extensive research and has talked to numerous tribes, not only in Central America, but South America, can you think of any tribal council that would sign off on somebody going and trying to become a sovereign nation, or someone trying to start their own tribe without tying back into the land?
None. Because all of those that say if you're trying to do that, you're a foreigner and you're a trespasser. And they will kindly ask, well, I don't say kindly because they won't do it kindly. They will tell you to go whatever other land of your choosing, but not on this continent, because they will treat you just like anyone else that came from Europe or any other country. They're going to treat you that way because you are a foreigner. And I say better yet, not only a foreigner, they will treat you as an enemy, because they will ask you, why are you trying to become a sovereign citizen when the word Indian and indigenous ties you to the land? So you cannot be an Indian, you cannot be an Indios and not be tied to the land. That's an oxymoron. I yield the mic.
Grand Rising, Courtney Gear, James Gilmore, peace. Ain't that something?
I have a question.
Can't
Did
be
you say
independent.
did you
It's all
say
right.
that you cannot be an Indian and a sovereign citizen?
No, you can't.
Sovereign.
The tribe as a whole, the nation is sovereign, but you as an individual, no. Because sovereignty is designated to that area of land where them people reside. It's just like if you're living, just like this. You live in Canada. Canada is a sovereign nation. So as long as you in Canada, you cool. But once you leave out of Canada and come into America, who laws you got to follow now? Wow, I hear crickets. Sovereignty has nothing to do with an individual. It's an area, a location.
Again, at the end of the day, if anything that we're saying about sovereign nation and sovereign citizenship is inaccurate, all I'm saying is bring the information. I just know it doesn't work from my personal standpoint, from what I've seen and from what I've witnessed. Now, if you know something different, it can prove something different, please bring it. I,
Mm,
we're not the type of people to sit here and tell you what to do or tell you what's right or what's wrong. But at the same time, if we're gonna bring you some information, we're gonna bring you where we got it from. That's why we do so many links and dropping them in the back chat or dropping them in the chat, so you can actually go do your research. Don't
yeah.
believe anything I'm saying, but at the same time, with the same respect that we give, please show us the same courtesy. If you're going to say something, bring the proof.
That's all we ask. And David Corey said it right. Citizenship is for immigrants. We got Indians fighting to be citizens and don't even know it. I'm gonna say it again. We got Indians fighting to be citizens and don't even know it.
Why do you think they call it self-designation? We went from being designated by enumerators to allowing self-designation in 1970, so we can intentionally misdesignate ourselves, therefore unintentionally reclassifying ourselves and eventually making ourselves immigrants.
I don't think they got that. Can you just do it one more time for me? One more time for me, please, please.
It's called self-determination and self-designation for a reason. That started back in 1970 with the 1970 census, where you have the opportunity to misdesignate yourself and call yourself something other than what you are or who you are. So then you declassify yourself or indigitize. You're no longer indigenous. You now become a citizen. Well, with citizenship, there needs to be proof, like everything else. If you call yourself African American, what tribe you from? If you call yourself any tribe that you pick, okay, what tribe you from? How you gonna choose it? How you gonna prove it? Because the reason why they're making you be specific is because they're gonna ask for proof. And if you decide to not participate, they're gonna misdiagnose you.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna misdesignate you. Now all of a sudden, your passport's being held, or you can't leave your state to go to another state because you were classified as an immigrant. And you'll be part of that 2019 Ghana movement. You,
Bubba,
you don't have to look. You don't have to. You don't have to leave, but you're gonna be leaving here.
Bubba.
So be careful with how you designate yourself,
They gave
because
you the
just
right to self-identify for a reason.
right, and just because you put a tribe, they're gonna ask you what tribe.
Mm-hmm. I mean, think about it. You can self-identify as a toaster oven, but can you prove it? I can tell you I'm Michael Jordan. When I go in that bank and try to get his account, does that work? I mean, the answers are obvious. And on that note, any closing remarks? Doodoo Vision, no sellout, TMH.
Appreciate y'all once again. Everybody, if y'all need any help or have any questions that you didn't want to put in the chat, uh, email us at entendeusassembly@gmail.com. Check the website, www.aau.world or entendeusassembly.com. Yeah, get some work done, people. Do your genealogy, family tree.
Hold on real quick. Pamela Hall said she got a question. How can she find a tribe in Virginia when all records were destroyed? At what year are you looking for? Because then you also have to study like migration patterns too.
But you also have to be more specific. But Virginia is a large area. So what township or what county? Because again, I'm pretty sure there, especially in Virginia, there is a church in that area that has a record, but they tell you, quote unquote, the records were destroyed. Now, perhaps the court records, the county records were destroyed, but those church records weren't destroyed. And if you actually go to that land, it's gonna take some. It's really what it's gonna take is some groundwork and some road work. You're gonna have to do some traveling sometimes and ask the elders there, and they'll tell you, baby, we've always been here. These are our people, because you'll find the oral traditions that are there. So don't just go and say, don't just stop right there because they say the records were destroyed, because the people are still there. It's It's like, it's like someone trying to tell you that you were never born, but you're here. So you got here some way. The people just didn't disappear and fade away. So go to the churches. Go to those established churches in Virginia, whatever county it is. Because when we say Virginia, it's like I'm in Texas. I can say Texas, and Texas is bigger than some countries. So what county, what township, what city, and then what year? I yield the mic.
I hope that helped you with your question, Pamela Hall.
One of the things I want to share is for all of us that are card carrying Indians who are part of a tribe, who are tied to the land. Let's help those who are not. Let's not continue to co-sign on something that our chief nor our council will co-sign on. If you know somebody is trying to do a sovereign nation thing, please discourage them. If you know that they're frustrated with their genealogy and they need some help, please help them. Don't let them decide that they're going to form their own tribe and then put it in a land trust and encourage that, because now you're being worse than a colonizer.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get it right this time. Let's help each other. Let's stop being neutral, because by being neutral, you've already chosen a side, the wrong side from
Mm-hmm.
my perspective.
Facts.
So that's what we're saying. That it's going to take all of us. The ones that can help. Help the ones that you see constantly grinding it out. Because we see the same relatives every day, so we know who putting the work in. And that's all we're saying, so we can get there. I guess any more questions from the chat? I'll give like 5 more minutes just in case anybody got any questions they wanted to get in.
While we waiting, question everybody. Don't just take somebody's word for something. Just because somebody, and this is no disrespect to anybody, please don't take it the wrong way. But just because somebody called them a chief, don't make them a chief. And if they're a chief by the way our ancestors did it, they got voted in by a council. They're tied into the land. They can trace their genealogy back to that land that their tribe is on, or to a land that their tribe is on. Let's stop accepting what people say and make them prove it. And if we're real about it, we won't have a problem with it. But if we aren't real about it, we will have a problem with it.
I
Dave
wanted to
Corey, the email is autonomousAssembly@gmail.com. autonomousAssembly@gmail.com.
You
Oh,
gonna say
sorry.
something, James?
No, I just want to say I know my voice may have come across as harsh to Miss Pamela Hall, and I apologize, sister. I was not trying to come across as being harsh. It's just the last few days I've been dealing with people that are trying to push this sovereign citizenship, and they've been sending private messages, and they're asking me why, and it's the best thing. Now I'm gonna say this: you cannot decide, hey, I want to rob a bunch of folks, I want to shank a bunch of folks, and now I'm mad because I got locked up for it, and now I want to be a sovereign citizen. So anything dealing with the government, I don't want to have anything to do with. That's nonsense, because just like you talk about the government that's now controlled by the other man that was our government, if you did those things, you had to pay the price. So pay the price, make amends, and let's move on. But don't just try to act like it never happened. Sometimes, go back and swallow your pride and apologize. But don't try to end up trying to be a sovereign citizen when that's individualism. We were never about individualism. Never. Show me anywhere in history we were about individualism, and then I'll help you become a sovereign citizen. Show me anywhere in history that our people were about one person and one person only. It was always about the collective. If one is suffering, we're all suffering. So, sister, I want to apologize. I know I had to go back and rethink some things and listen to myself, and I may have come across as hard. But please, by all means, all of us on this panel and some of us that are not podcast, we will help you find, not just you, but I'm saying anyone, to find who they are. Now, the deal is, I'm not going to do all the work for you. You're going to have to do some work. And I'm not saying that to you, Mr. Pamela. I'm saying to anybody else who's like, oh, man, this is, and this is this, and you go and you run and do this. No, we're going to put in the work together. I'm not going to do it by myself. I will help you, but I'm not going. I'm not going to do it for you. Because if that's the case, then I have to be compensated for that. Because that's finding out who you are. So we'll help. That's the deal. But we're not going to do. That's the difference. I yield the mic. I appreciate y'all.
Anytime and every time, Brother James. Anytime and every time.
Thank you for that.
Joe 47 said, I'm in Texas and I need to go back to, what's that, Opelousas, Louisiana to do more research on my genealogy. Where do I start once I go back?
You already there when you said it in the name. The Appaloosa or the Appaloosa, they spell it with an O, they spell it with an A. You were the first horse breeders on this continent. The first horse breeders. These horses were not brought over here from Europe like they trying to say. Horses were already here. The Appaloosa tribe were breeding horses, and they still breed horses today. They just don't look like us anymore because they, pushed us aside. But look on the outskirts of Appaloosa, our people are still there. So you all are the horse breeders. So I will start looking into the cowboys of color, where you're dealing with the rodeos and all that. Those are your people. Your people started the cowboys of color, the Appaloosa tribe. So I know I'm talking too much. I'm almost home because I know there's another meeting after this. So I'm gonna yield the mic.
Oh, no, never that. Never talking too much. Always knowledge and wisdom. Always.
Facts.
Pamela, how do you share your genealogy? Do you have a ancestry.com account? Is that how you was doing your genealogy? Matter of fact, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna make it a lot easier for the ones that are struggling. After the show, all who either don't have an ancestry account or need one, email us at autonomousassembly.com, and once we get your email, I will set up your account free for you to be able to do your genealogy. Okay? For everybody to be able to have a genealogy digital sheet. So either during the show or after the show at any time, or just hit us in with your email so I can set it up, and you'll get an email back. Just change the like I said, just use it respectfully, because it'll be a community account. It'll be for everybody in the community to use genealogy, and it'll allow us to talk back and forth and work with each other. All right. So as soon as y'all get them in, y'all have my word. As I get it, you'll be getting your links to the account, and we can all link them together, and we can work together in real time from ancestry.com. No charge to no one in the community. I'll take that on. It's no problem. The account is already there. If that can help the community move forward on this genealogy.
I second that notion. I'll also allow you to use my account to help as well. That way, it won't all be on your account. So, let's get it.
There we have it. Let's
As
start.
long as I'm already using your account, and I don't have no account to offer, but I appreciate you.
It ain't no thing, brother. It ain't no thing. Well, if you already have a paid subscription, I wouldn't advise you to cancel it, or just send the email, and I'll link the account so we can still work together. So if you already paying a monthly subscription for it, you don't have to cancel it out. Yeah, so that's basically. So we don't have to put a burden on this money. You get what I'm saying? If we can get it all down to $19 for 4 accounts, but thousands of us are in here helping each other with this genealogy, then that $100 is well worth it. That ain't nothing. You know what I mean? We with the relatives. We blow it on stupidity for too long anyway. Them days got to stop. Let's stop saying what we're gonna do, and let's just make this happen right now. Yeah, David Corey, it can be one, but I'll leave. I'm not the one to make the decisions for the community. The community has to make the decision on how y'all want to go in that direction. We just letting you know that the accounts are there for y'all to use. Now, all that there, y'all get amongst each other, whatever, on how y'all gonna do that. But the account's gonna be there regardless.
Yeah, again, the goal is to not make money off of the community. The goal is to help the community. And that's been one of the biggest problems. Some individuals in the conscious community have been taken advantage of the people repeatedly. And because we want the truth or we want to help, we continue to be taken advantage of. So if we're in a situation where it's not about money, then you don't have to worry about no one asking you for anything, and you know that it's coming from a genuine place because you're not being charged.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're not here to put no burden on the community. Like we all know, we've been taken advantage of too much. Yeah, I feel you, David Corey, but like I said, we're not designing it that way. Nowhere in A2's design is it dependent on the community for us to run. We're not
Not at all.
we're not sitting here talking self-sufficient, meaning the community is what makes A2 run. No, A2 runs self-sufficiently on its own. Well, the community don't have to put a dollar in for it to run. We're not just talking it, we're showing you in real time. A2 is a nonprofit organization built off the mechanisms to uplift the American Indian voices and to help the American Indians become self-sufficient, tying back into these tribes.
Big old facts.
Well, if it makes
Interesting
anyone
facts.
feel better, I'm going to Home Depot now. I'm going to go buy some yarn and make some dream catchers, and I'm gonna sell them for 19.95. If that
This
makes
is
somebody feel better, because we've gone from Pan African to panhandlers. So no one is asking for anybody not one red cent, and I mean that literally and figuratively, because it is about helping you find out who you are. Because when you find out who you are, you cannot put a price tag on that. There's no value that you can place on knowing who you are, exactly who you are and where you are from. I guarantee you, because I've seen it. I've seen it with my former students. Once they find out who they are, they walk a little taller. They just stick out a little bit more because they know who they are. Because they know that this step and fetches story that we've been given is not our story. So
Mm-hmm.
find out who you are. That is the key. I'm telling you, you'll see the world in a different light when you find out who you are. I yield the mic.
That's facts. Who was that said it yesterday in the chat? Somebody in the chat said, You've been. It's been too long for you. You too grown to not know who you are by now.
Mm-hmm.
For real, you are too grown to not know who you are. Not even know your real culture.
And simple.
Come on
And
now.
like we said, if you want to help the community, go to the website and there's different ways where you can help, where you can sign up to help. You understand? Be part of newsletters, be part of informational teams. So however you want to help, there's a way for you to sign up on the website. If your thing is you want to donate to somebody cause, then do that. But we would never stand here from this platform to tell you give, or that's never happening. So you hearing it here facts. So if anybody ever told you anything different, rewind the tape. Anything else we adding in?
do
No,
your genealogy. Go ahead. Go ahead,
no,
Tony. Sorry.
I'm sorry. You mean there's like there's no secret chat group where you have to pay like $20 to become a member and get secret information? Is that what you all are saying? There's no separate YouTube group that you have to pay to be a member of in order to get this information.
Nope.
We don't have that available. We don't.
Yeah,
We're
that
not selling
option
any
is not here.
packages or
It'll
anything.
never be here.
There's no PayPal account, no Cash App, no none of that, no Facebook where you send money to Facebook. None of that
No
that we have to be a
monetizing.
member.
I would say it here.
Not.
These streams would never be monetized on no YouTube, and that's not knocking anyone that does. There would never be a super chat ran on here. I said that when I walked in the door, and when my day comes where it's time for me to walk out, that will stand. This is not designed to take nothing from our brothers and sisters. If you want to help, then help in the ways that you find that you can. But we ain't asking for nothing. Because we're gonna get up like we've been doing for the last 6 months, and we're gonna be here consistently. In the rising, we will be here for those who need the help.
There's a method to my madness. I'm asking these questions because you know how sometimes we all get lumped into categories with other people
Mm-hmm.
that are a part of this movement and thinking that you have to pay your way in. And that should never be the case. Never be the case. If someone is genuinely trying to find out who they are, there are people that genuinely want to help you. And again, I say again, anyone that is talking individualism, talk about I got my papers, you get yours, then you need to run for the hills. And I mean that. Go the other way because they are setting you up for failure. And I'm gonna give you some names and I'm gonna yield the mic. David Koresh. Y'all don't, some of y'all may be too young to remember him. Just outside of Waco. And what happened to David Koresh when he tried to do that sovereign citizen stuff. Jim Jones. Now I'm going way back now. I'm telling my age. So look up Jim Jones, and I'm not talking about the rapper Jim Jones. I'm talking about the so-called evangelist. I am the second coming of Christ, Jim Jones. Same as David Koresh and those Branch Davidians. Look them up. And if they did that to them and they blew them up, then you think they won't do it to you? I yield the mic. Y'all have a great grand day.
Mm.
And like I said, autonomousassembly.com or aau.world, where there's 50 free genealogy websites. I'm going to say it again, 50 free genealogy websites. And also on the genealogy page, there's tips to help you get along your way on searching through records. Is there a sign up? No. Is there a fee? No. Registration? No. www.autonomousassembly.com. So show there. You can also catch repeats of the show there. The live stream is showed from the C.A.B page as well. Also, the radio program, Autonomous Assembly Radio, is also from that page, which streams 24/7. App should be dropping Friday.
And again, question everybody. Just because somebody holds a title, just because someone claims that they are part of a tribe, question them. If they're legitimate, they will not be offended. If they're not legitimate, they will be offended. I'm just saying. Don't just take people for face value just because they look like you, or y'all share the same copper color skin tone, or y'all sound similar. Only deal with people that you're willing to be, that you're willing to take responsibility for their actions. Now that says a lot. If you're not gonna vouch for somebody, and when I mean vouch for somebody, I mean if they did something, you would share in the financial responsibility. Then you might want to change who you're associating with. Because if we gonna be real and talk real Indians, we gonna go by the street code. 9 times out of 10, you just don't hang around people you don't know. I'm just saying. I'll relinquish the mic.
So again, on that note, any closing remarks?
No, Yeah, I think we closed.
We could.
We closed.
Like I said, as always, it been a very, very great grand rising again with the relatives. Until we link up again, it's always a party. Do your genealogy. Keep up the work. Know that you're not alone in this. Reach out to like-minded. And 7 generations from now, they'll be celebrating how they never forgot what their ancestors did for them to remember. And on that note, it been fun. Peace. Take you out with a tune from Hezzy.
Peace, y'all.
Peace.
I'm just trying to keep my mind on right ground. My meditation's on right now. Keep my moves on low key. Keep the trees on OG. Keep the flow on higher level. Keep my reputation on honor rebel. I keep truth over falsehoods. I'm the type to keep robber over backwoods. I'm the type to keep touring out my own way. Celebrate my parents on my born day. I'm the type to keep a toolie in the stash spot. From a school where pioneers was our mascot. I'm the type to keep books full of rhymes written. Might spit a couple off the top if the vibe's different. I keep flows like a Jedi, keep a lightsaber. And keep paper in my pocket like a true player. Now that's PIMP if you ain't peep yet. $1,000,000 is only getting your feet wet. I keep my mind on the trillion, that's 1,000 billion. Starting to feel like chump change is 100 million. I keep kush in the vein, that's 1,000 billion. Starting to feel like chump change is 100 million. I keep kush in the vein for the elevation. Keep Torah on the brain for the meditation. Black man, yeah, you know we keep it different. Yeah, check, yo. I'm just trying to keep my mind on right ground. My meditation's on right now. Keep my moves on low key. Keep the trees on OG. Keep the flow on higher level. Keep my reputation on honor rebel. I keep truth over falsehoods. I'm the type to keep robber over backwoods. I'm the type to keep touring out my own way. Celebrate my parents on my born day. I'm the type to keep a toolie in the stash spot. From a school where pioneers was our mascot. I'm the type to keep books full of rhymes written. Might spit a couple off the top if the vibe's different. I keep flows like a Jedi, keep a lightsaber. And keep paper in my pocket like a true player. Now that's PIMP if you ain't peep yet. $1,000,000 is only getting your feet wet. I keep my mind on the trillion, that's 1,000 billion. Starting to feel like chump change is 100 million. I keep kush in the vein for the elevation. And keep Torah on the brain for the meditation. Black man, keep your mind on liberation. It's time we get our own land, the birth of a nation. I try to keep good vibes over dark vibes, but they ain't killing all lives, only black lives. That's why I keep good thoughts in my archives. Make sure most highs always on the hard drive. Keep your self-respect, yo, control yourself. And keep yourself in check, don't ever play yourself. I keep my foot on the gas, I'm going hard on them. And keep a three-point shooter for when we ball on them. I keep cooking up fire to keep the streets hot. From a time when dudes really used to beatbox. I keep perfecting my craft to make a game changer. And keep one in the chamber ready for all danger. Yeah, I like to keep the peace, but we could go to war. Down to fight against the power to get us all. They say black don't crack, so I'ma keep it poppin'. Cause we gon' be here forever, know that we never stoppin'. Now that's PIMP if you ain't peep yet. $1,000,000 is only getting your feet wet. I keep my mind on the trillion, that's 1,000 billion. Starting to feel like chump change is 100 million. I keep kush in the vein for the elevation. And keep Torah on the brain for the meditation. Black man, keep your mind on liberation. It's time we get our own land, the birth of a nation.